Jess wanted to ask, in terms of when we're going traveling and stuff, firstly, what can we do? Some of the things we can do to prepare before we go somewhere new, to prevent like psychic sabotage and stuff. And secondly, also, how can we work with the land more consciously? So, like, see if there's anything that the land needs from us when we get there.
Okay. So when you are traveling, let's say, I mean, it's the road, and the plane, this, or maybe train. So when you're traveling on streets, on roads, first of all, you're very vulnerable. 1 second slip and you can be dead or crippled for the rest of your life. You should be aware of that. Car accident can just mess you up. Back pain for the rest of your life, whatever. So whenever I get in the car, putting the belt on, I do a heavy-duty prayer of protection. So the dark side can't get to me, no mechanical breakdown, no harassment from cops, everything legit, I mean, oh yeah, and yeah, everything happening for the highest good and divine harmony with the most better outcomes. Because on the road, and you're very, very vulnerable potentially as such. Now on the street, there are a lot of dark thought forms there. It's traffic jams, car accidents, frustrated people, rushed people, and they stay there. So you have to be aware of that. So if you're in really high vibration, you can ask the angels, give them permission to clear all that stuff, and you may feel it, But otherwise, you want to soup yourself up in the car, with a bubble of protection. And also, make a prayer that, the dark, hateful thought from other people, I call it traffic anger. Is somebody stuck behind you, cursing you out because you going too fast or too slow or whatever, you're not driving the way they want. So these thought forms, they can get stuck to your car. So, you want to make your car squeaky clean energetically, So when I use my pendulum, I can ask, so yeah, I'm going to ask right now. So how much positive energy do I have on my car? 100. How much negative energy is on my car? 0. So I include my car, every day in my space ritual. So, but, this is definitely something I would do when I hit the road, especially for longer periods of time. You don't want to break down somewhere far away where you have to take a hotel to get it fixed. Um, yeah. So then traveling by airport, first of all, in an airplane, a lot of people have a lot of fear of flying, so airplanes are filled with fear vibration and anxiety vibration, business trips, people are excited, most of them, many of them have fear, and important things, flying is expensive, this is always some higher, running. So you in that, plus you're sitting next to people, sitting right next to people, I mean, you're merging, your energy with them. Especially when you sit to the left of somebody, all their shit is flowing into you. If you sitting to the right of somebody, your stuff is affecting them, right? So be careful where you sit. Mhm. But so you want to, be really grounded on an airplane. Actually, stewardesses, they were taught to ground, so they can, adjust. You have to be in harmony with your earth energy. Flying really disconnects them. Mhm. So my advice is, yeah, so when you go into the plane, create a force field that's really close to you. Normally your force field should be maybe like that. In an airplane, you turn it into a spacesuit. You pull it close to you, like an astronaut suit. Tight. New Yorkers, they have a tighter aura than Californians, for instance, statistically. So then, once you land, definitely ground, and I would take a hot bath or a shower, as soon as possible. If you in a hotel room, well, I would do a prayer for clearing, and I would paint the walls with love, and the bed too. You know, just in a nutshell, how do you do so? So, I fill myself either with heaven on earth love, or with source love on the inhale. So I'm going like that. And on the exhale, I'm going to run it, through my hands, into the walls, like laying like a wallpaper, like stripe, of love down the wall. It goes like that. Yeah, you get all giggly here. So when you do that, you have that room finished, you high like a kite, and the whole room just, has now an aura probably of, of 2 feet, like half a meter, whatever. Before it maybe was like that, you know. Oh yeah, it's just tingling, So uh, so yeah, you don't want like be in that soup from other people, in a hotel, especially the bed, you want to soup that up, and I mean, traveling, definitely, I take a bath whenever I can. It's a deep soak, it purifies you. Even the chlorine, purifies you from dark attachments. Plus check for ghosts, because hotel rooms are haunted with ghosts. Lots of drugs and sex there, so you're gonna have ghosts there, that are feeding on that. So that's just, traveling, getting there, So, but whenever you get into new territory, like, if I want to go into the forest to walk here, the Native American way is, you stomp, your foot, you know. So, and then, you ask, for permission. You mean, you send love, oh God. And I'm just getting overwhelmed here with love. And then you ask for permission to be welcome, And then, you feel it, I mean, they just want you to be respectful, basically. And then, yeah, you start running love, with the trees, I just, switch to source love and project it, everywhere. And sometimes you find the grandfather or grandmother trees, or you connect with the mycelium network underneath. It's all good, and then, it depends, you can ask your high self, are there entities stuck there, tribal people that need clearing, are there dark portals? Is there, yeah, you find out what's going on with the fairies, are they angry at humans, that then depends, if you're connected, you can go there, otherwise just keep on running love, inhale the love from the trees and the earth and then send it back and smile, God, I'm out here.
There's a lot of love in this room. And the love
Oh, yeah.
all around you. I'm sure is very grateful for all the work that you do. Every time we connect in as a group with the land, I always get some little being, usually the woodland elves, coming through and just bringing gratitude for the work that everyone's doing. Like, thank you, you're making a difference. One thing that you left off the list that you've taught me a lot about is checking in on past lives that you've had in certain places before you go there. Do you want to just say a little bit about that? Because that's the main thing that I've found has made a difference when I don't do it.
Oh, yeah, well, so yeah, I came into the habit, of, asking, did this person or did I, live here in past lifetimes? Yes or no? You know? And then you can even, if you get a yes, you ask, how many lifetimes? and you get an idea, if it has been 20, you got some stuff with that area. And then you ask, if any of those aspects are still stuck, on the astral plane. And with that, I mean, did they make it into the heavens, the higher vibration, or are they still somewhere in a false light heaven, or, cruising on some emotional trauma when they got slaughtered, whatever happened, or predators, and trap them in magical way or dark technologies, this all happens. And so when they're stuck, I call them in, and talk to them, find out, if it's many, I ask them to select a leader, the most senior, and talk to that one, find out what happens, and then I call in divine justice, and the cavalry, basically, to have them liberated. Sometimes it needs some help, some negotiation, some preaching, right? And sometimes you got to preach to them, and straighten them out in their understanding, show, oh, yeah, maybe this was karma for you and whatever, and they can see it, I mean, on the astral stuff goes very fast. And, and so many times when there was a slaughter, so they have to be cleared, there has to be forgiveness, and the perpetrators have to be sent to the courts of divine justice. Archangel Michael does that. And then there, generally, you have dark portals. Whenever there was black magic or a lot of suffering, you have dark portals. So you gotta ask that be cleared, and the dark energies and entities that came through that. And then you invite, the healing.